factory leaves this piece here to make sure that everything stays straight during shipping and storage. You're going to want to get a nice roll of quality masking tape so it doesn't leave any residue, and make a line. This needs to be cut out just enough. So 2 pieces of masking tape. You'll see this is in the directions also. Masking tape helps us to keep a straight line when cutting. I have this great saw that I purchased. I'm not sure where I got it. It was probably at a hobby store. And you can see it's got a nice handle on it. I only use it for stuff like this, so the blade has lasted forever. Okay, so it's really important to make sure, just for fit and finish purposes, that you cut this nice and straight. Cuts through nice and easy, with a little patience. Make a nice straight line. That's it. Move our piece, move our tape. We're ready to fit the stab. See, we ended up with a nice clean cut. It's really a great way to do it. So it was only a couple of dollars. It's a worthwhile investment. I know a lot of you guys are gonna email me and ask me where I got this stand. I'll save you the trouble. I bought it at Neat Fair about 5 years ago. There was a guy selling a bunch of them out of his truck, and I've never seen another one like it. So I'm sorry. Save you the trouble. We're going to fit it. Make sure it's nice and tight, which this one is. It's actually a perfect fit. Okay. I like to hinge the elevator and then measure from the corners of the elevator to the wingtips and various other mounting points. Now that our landing gear, wheel pants, and wheels are on, I've test fit the wings, and I'm really impressed with the fact that, like my larger 78-inch extra, the wing fits such a nice contour to the fuselage with no gap. So we're going to want to put the wings on to square up our elevator control surface before we glue it. Next, we're going to prep the elevator and the vertical stab. We're also going to prep the rudder. For this, we're going to repeat the same procedure that we did with our ailerons. We're going to fit our elevator properly. Make sure our gaps are all even, and we get max deflection with no bind. When you're happy with that spacing, 2 drops of thin CA on each hinge. I like to start here, go to this side, work my way back and forth. That way you're sure you're keeping an eye on your gap. After you glue the hinges on the elevator, you're going to locate the 2 G10 control horns that we set aside earlier. Again, one of them's just a little bit longer than the other one. The shorter one is for the elevator. The longer one is for the rudder. I'm going to do the same thing we did for the ailerons. I'm going to locate a little reinforcement plate, install it, make a template, and remove the covering. On the elevator, the control horn goes on the bottom left. The rudder, the control horn, will get installed on the right. So I'm going to do that prep work, and I'll be back for the next step. I've installed my control horns in my elevator and my rudder. Again, just like the ailerons, remember to sand the surface of the G10 control horn before you apply 30-minute epoxy in the hole and on the control horn. Use a paper towel, and you can use alcohol to wipe up any of the extra residue. We want to set this in relationship to our wing. One of the ways to do it, you can install just the wing tube and measure from the wing tube. I like to make sure that we're perpendicular to the wing, so I always install the wing. Now that I see at a relaxed fit it's not uneven at all and doesn't need any adjustment, I can remove the wings and use that wing tube for my final measurements because it's really accurate. Now that I've removed my wings, I can make my final measurements for my wing tube. I'm pretty adamant that this part of the build get done properly. I'll measure quite a bit before I glue anything, and you really want to make sure that your elevator vertical stab is square to the rest of the airframe. Once I get this where I'm happy with it, I'll tack it with just a little bit of thin CA, measure again, make sure it's really where I want it, and then I will, with a combination of thin CA and gap filling if there's any small gaps. And I find a little bit of kicker will help with the setup of that. So after you get that gap filling CA in there, just hit it with a little bit of kicker and let it set up overnight. Once that's all set, you're going to install your rudder. Again, making sure all your hinges are even. Make sure your gaps are even and you have full range of motion. 2 drops of thin CA on each hinge, and this part of the build will be done. Tomorrow night we'll move on to installing servos. We still have to do the tail wheel, but I'll adjust that all in the next video. Thanks for sticking with me, guys.